Good evening. My name is Dmytro Vorobiov, and I'm an engineer here at TomTom. I was working for TomTom for already 4 years, and during last 3 of them, we have improved our CI process and also introduced continuous delivery. So yeah, this is what I'm going to talk about today. During this presentation, I want to walk you through the journey we took. So we had old, ugly, unmanageable, and chaotic setup, and now we have something which is nice and which I'm sort of proud of. So yeah, I'd like to show you how we did that. To give you a bit of context, we have people working in 4 countries. So basically, we have people here in Netherlands, we have people in Poland, in India, and in Serbia. We have 22 developers and 8 testers and all other Scrum people like Scrum Masters, product owners, so 36 people in total. We're developing 2 apps, 2 navigation apps, and these 2 apps can share same code base. This is important. So basically, how it works, you can run some scripts that will configure your project to build one app or another, and this is important for this talk. Currently, we have this setup for our CI. So we're using TCT server, and we have 8 Mac Mini build agents, which we use for building, testing, unit testing, smoke testing, deploying to the store, deploying to test flight. Yeah, this is what we have now. It works quite well, but yeah, I want to tell you what we had before. So 3 years ago, we were using Jenkins, and we were using Jenkins with a bunch of bash scripts inside. Basically, we had all our build scripts inside Jenkins, so there you can just enter some bash code and it will work. And we use it for installing our dependencies, for building and testing. And I think that each of these scripts started like this. So it was like, for building, it was simple Xcode build. But then over time, it grew to something like this. And yeah, you don't have to read it, but just to show how big it is. And actually here, all this red text is one-liner in Perl. So it actually takes 6 lines, but it's a one-liner, so yeah. Yeah, so this is what we had 3 years ago. Basically, yeah, we had around 1,000 lines of bash code, which was all stored in Jenkins, and there is an issue with that, is that this code is not in your repository, and people don't treat this code as normal source code. So basically, people don't care too much about stuff you have on Jenkins. If they need to fix some issues, they can add some hack. People don't do code reviews on this code. They don't share anything with each other. So basically, no changes are aligned between people. And yeah, you end up with something like this, as I show you. And it's hard to maintain. It's hard to add changes. And also, if you will make one mistake, your CI doesn't work because, wait, how it is now, how it is built. So if you change something better, your Jenkins doesn't work. So we decided that this is not something that we want to have. Our configuration was growing bigger and bigger, and we decided that we want to move to something else. Also, we wanted to add new features like continuous delivery, like shipment builds to various, so to AppStore, to TestFlight, to Proselytics. And we also thought that our build scripts should be part of our project. And also, one additional reason to move all setup was that we weren't happy with Jenkins. Basically, that days it looked ugly, and well, some developers weren't happy with it, with its look and feel, let's say. Now I know it's much better, so it has some upgrades in terms of UX. So I haven't used new Jenkins, so I have no idea how it looks and feels, but previous version we weren't happy too much about it, and we decided to move to TeamCity, which we have now. So basically what we did, we took all scripts from Jenkins and tried to put them to our repository, and we wanted to have our CI setup as small as possible, so we didn't want to have lots of scripts there, lots of codes. That was one of our goals. Also, it was a nice chance to do some refactoring. So after these changes, after moving our scripts to our repository, we had something like this. We had all our bash scripts stored in the repository, and also we had one main script to do them all. Here I have to give you a bit of a context. Why do we need this main script? Is because all these bash scripts, basically it was a spaghetti bash code, and it was not so good. These scripts could have dependencies on each other. So basically, for example, this script was assuming that this script should run before it. Also, they were sharing different, they were passing different parameters to each other through environment variables. And well, basically, yeah, this is setup we had on Jenkins, which just wrote by itself over time. That's why we decided that we need to have this main script to control flow of all other scripts. Yeah, so we did this. And then we thought, like, what language can we use for writing this superscript? And as we are iOS developers, we decided that we want to go for Swift. Our code base was in Objective-C, and we were really excited that we can use Swift at least somewhere. I think it was Swift 2 or something. So yeah, we decided to use Swift as our scripting language, and I would say that it is a bad idea. So from my experience, you don't want to do that. First point is that Swift is not a scripting language. Well, you can try to use it as is, but it's really hard to get everything working. Basically, you have to do a lot of hacks to make it work. If you would like to have if you have some file with your script and you would like to have dependencies on other files, it is not the way Swift was designed to work. And you have to do some workarounds with calling bash and then running Swift, whatever. But the second biggest issue was that the Swift breaks with every extra update. So basically, Swift version 2.0 was actually Swift version 0.2, so it wasn't ready for production, let's say. And with each extra update, you got it broken, and Swift 2 was not compatible with Swift 3, so basically it doesn't have backward compatibility. And yeah, we were happy when we did it, but after a year or so, I understood that it's really hard to maintain. It's really hard to keep it running, and we had to spend some time every 4 or 6 months to fix new exit version of new Swift. And we were even blocked with exit update because of this, so we couldn't migrate to new Xcode, we couldn't use new iOS because we had to fix our script. So yeah, don't do this, don't use Swift as scripting language, for sure. Then we decided to take a look what if there are any tools out there that we can use, and we found fastlane. So for those who don't know, fastlane is a tool for automating mobile development. So it provides high-level actions that you can use to automate building, testing, deployment, and it is written in Ruby, and it is really nice. Basically, it provides you with some actions. These are some of them which you can use. I think there was a meetup in August about fastlane. where guys told how to use it and give some examples. So if you like, I think you can even check it online on YouTube. Yeah, so these are high-level actions. For example, deliver action is used for delivering your app to the App Store. So it is really high-level action. It does everything for you. For example, if you call it, it will get your executable file and upload it to the store. But that's not it. Apple API is a bit trickier than this. After you upload your build to the App Store, it doesn't appear, so it goes somewhere to space. You cannot see it. You have to wait for like 3-5 minutes, and it appears only after that. So this tool just waits. It pings Apple server and checks like is build available or not. After it has been processed, you also have to wait for some Apple checks to run. So basically, Apple checks if you are using private APIs, if you're doing anything bad, and you have to wait for this, and this tool does it. And after everything is good, it can notify you that, hey, your build is ready. So it is really nice. Also, one good thing about Fastlane and all these tools is that they are maintained and updated quite regularly. So if, for example, you have issues with deliver, and for some reason Apple can change APIs, and Apple doesn't notify you about this, they just change it. And you just try to upload your build to the store and it doesn't work. You can just simply update Fastlane and, well, in most cases, they already fix this issue, so everything works for you. So it's really nice. Also, one nice thing about Fastlane is that it is easily extendable. So if you like, you can write your own actions, which you can write in Ruby, and well, writing in Ruby, at least for me, is better than writing in Bash, so yeah, I enjoy it more. So what we did, we took Fastlane, and we already got a bunch of Bash scripts which were working, sort of working, and we didn't want to spend much time on migration, so we didn't want to rewrite everything at the same time, and we decided that we can use Bash scripts, so in Fastlane, and then also use action provided by Fastlane. So what we did, we created some our actions which were just wrappers for either Bash scripts or Fastlane high-level actions. This way, we could migrate our setup like in 1 day. Now, it was Fastlane which was responsible for these interactions between scripts. And next day, we already could add some nice stuff like continuous deployment to the store. And over time, we can refactor this to something better in Ruby scripts. So basically, we have legacy working, and it can be refactored later. Yeah, I can show you how it looks like. So it's really simple. So this is our action, which is called IPA action. IPA is a name for executable of a binary used on iOS that you upload to the store. And basically, what we do here, we just call Bash script that we had before. So yeah, it works nicely, but it wraps it in a nice way, which I will show you later. And for example, here you can see actions that use actually Fastlane action. So it is called AppStore action. What it does, it gets some stuff from configuration. So it gets Steam ID, it gets path to IPA file, and then it uses Fastlane AppStore action to upload everything to the store. So yeah, it just says like, please use this app identifier, use this username for login, this Steam ID, this IPA, and then it just ships everything there. Yeah. So Fastlane also have concepts of lanes. Basically, lane is something more high level. So action is like small atomic stuff that does only one thing. And in lane, you can combine those and do different scenarios. Here, you can see that we have lane for building. So what it does, if needed, it marks icon. So it gets up icon and adds some text like build number or branch from which this build was made from, and it adds it to up icon, and then, for example, testers or product owners would easily see what build it is on their phone. So yeah, it does this. Then it builds application. If needed, it resigns it, because you have to sign application with different certificate in order to ship it to the store. If needed, it signs it with enterprise certificate, which is another way to distribute your app. So basically, Apple gives you two ways of app distribution. One is through the store, and another one is through enterprise signing, and it is meant for in-house distribution. So we use it to distribute builds to our teams, to our internal teams in TomTom. Yeah, so I think this setup is quite simple, and actually you don't know which action is using bash scripts inside and which is actually a high-level fastlane action. This is another example that we have. So this lane is called post build, and it runs a lot of steps conditionally. So it can run analysis, it can generate some useful information about how much lines of the code we have, how what is our test coverage. We use it sometimes. Then there are reactions for uploading our file to different channels. So we can upload to Proselytics, which is a way to distribute your enterprise apps. You can upload to TestFlight, which is a beta testing platform from Apple. So we have some beta users, we can ship there. We have AppStore, which is shipped to the AppStore. And also, last section here is Slack. Basically what it does, fastlane also provides you by actions like this. You can send a message to your Slack channel to say like, hey, build 1, 2, 3 is shipped to the store. Yeah. So this is fastlane. As you can see, here we use some configuration, some config, which we use to change behavior and change the flow of our lanes. This is something which is not provided by fastlane. This is something which we made ourselves. Basically, configuration file looks something like this. It's YAML file. It is inspired by Travis or something else, so it has a much similar format. And in this configuration file is also stored in our repository. And here you can specify different options. You can adjust your build. You can do whatever is suitable for you. So for example, here we have some base configuration, and you can specify which environment you want to point your app to. So your app can be can use staging server, it can use pre-production, production, and here you can specify that. You can specify whether this is internal build, which has some debugging included, or if this is the external one. If we want to send reports to Proselytics, also you can specify stuff like Xcode version to use. For example, when new Xcode comes out, we want to test it on new Xcode, on beta Xcode, so all this is supported. And basically, then is our fastlane actions who, well, we parse this configuration through fastlane, and then each fastlane action can decide what it can do based on these parameters.
What do you do when?
Yeah.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah, sure, please.
What do you do when you change the Xcode version? There are different Mac Mini with different Xcode version, or different version in the same you switch?
What we have now on each Mac Mini, we store several versions of Xcode. So basically, we have 8 Mac Minis, and they all have same setup. Actually, it's really hard to set up TeamCity agents if you're using Mac, because there is no Docker. You cannot get Xcode and put it into Docker. And you have to basically install everything on host machine. And it's really hard to maintain this. So we would like for all 8 Mac Minis to be the same. So then we will have reproducible results. But it's hard to do this. But yeah, with our script, so basically we have some fastlane actions that take care of this. So basically, before you run any when you run any fastlane lane, it has first action to check environments. So basically, it checks all versions of installed tools that are required. It checks if export is required, whatever, and then if not, it proposes to install it. So if possible, we have some sort of automation. It tells you like, okay, you don't have this tool of this version. Do you want me to install it? You say yes, and it does. Yeah.
Maybe Ansible could be used for automate installation.
Maybe.
And then you just do Xcode switch to choose the right version.
Well, we do Xcode switch, but in our fastlane action, basically, yeah, they're quite simple. We just have Xcode sitting on each Mac Mini, and then we use how it's called Spotlight or something to find appropriate version of Xcode. So basically, you can say I want to find Xcode with attribute version 10.0, and then Spotlight. It indexes all file systems, so it doesn't even matter where you put your Xcode. It will find Xcode of this version.
So without environment variables
yes,
to maintain.
yes. So through system search, Spotlight is macOS is search on macOS. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Question.
Yeah. Question was in terms of the logging. Where is the log information written to?
Log information.
Yeah, you're talking about internal builds includes.
Yeah.
logging.
So so if this is enabled, we have logging. We have different types of logging, so different levels. It is written on device.
On device.
It's written on device, and then what you can do, you can get logs from device and give it to developer if needed. So if, for example, tester tests application and he finds some issue, he can grab logs from device. He can do it by plugging phone to his computer, or we have some debug menu with debug features where we have button to export all logs, and then he can send them to developer or someone.
Analysis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also for crash logs. So this is normal logs. For crash logs, we're using Crashlytics, which is a service that integrates with the mobile application, and then it watches for crashes and sends it to server. So for crash logs, we aggregate all statistics, all crashes on Crashlytics service.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. So yeah, we use this kind of configuration. Also, we wanted, as I already told, to having lots of. We didn't want to put any configuration on TeamCity, so we wanted to make it as small as possible. And that's why we decided to also put all configurations that we use for TeamCity builds, for different builds, here. So here you can see this is TeamCity configuration for some app A. So it's called TeamCity app A test flight. What it does, it includes base configuration, and then it modifies it, so basically it overrides some flags that we have. It says like, this build should be external, it should build as release, not debug version of build. We will want to resign, and then publish to test flight and post on Slack. And this is all in basically the same configuration file. And this way we can also review these changes, and Steam is aware of these changes. So basically, yeah, they go through our normal process. And if so, we have this in our config, and all we have to do on TeamCity, we have to add only one line. So we just call fastlane. We say bundle exec fastlane for a lane which is called CI job. Configuration this TeamCity app A test line. That's it. So basically, to create a new configuration of TeamCity, we have to add only one line of code there, and we can have different variations. For example, we have two apps. We want to have different. We want to have ability to build different configurations of app on our CI. So we have app A, which we want to build in debug, and we want to run smoke tests. And these two jobs can be used by developers. Yeah.
A single config file or one project?
It's a single config file, and as I told, to our apps, they share same code base, and you can configure what app would you build through this configuration.
Single one.
Yeah. So it is shared because a lot of code is shared, and we have some code for particular for one app and some for another, and logic which defines which part to use to build to link is defined in configuration. Yes. So yeah, you can have some builds for app A. You can have a job to publish it to test flight. You can have a job to publish it to store, and these two jobs are used by product owner. So when product owner decides that he wants to publish build to the store, he just presses a button and tells it works. We can have second app, which can have some different configurations on TeamCity to debug, to run tests, unit tests, to publish facilities, to test flight. And all we have to do to create these jobs is to just add one line. And we just have to use different configuration from config file for each type of build. So here it's TeamCity app A debug, TeamCity app A smoke test, and so on. And yeah.
Actually, one other question. Sorry, I'm a
Yeah, no
security
problem.
guy.
Please.
So, how are the configuration files secured from the front end?
How configuration what?
How are they secured in terms of who has access to them?
So
Only the developers have access?
developers have access to configurations, and our normal way of working, we use Git, we use pull requests, and each change has to be reviewed by at least 2 people.
Okay.
So change to configuration is same as any other change. So
Okay.
if you change some code, you create a pull request, and then people have to review it, approve it. And if you change configuration, same. You have to create pull request. People have to review it and approve it. And also, job on TeamCity has to pass. So if you change configuration in some way that it is not working, your build will be red and you won't be able to merge. And yeah, and also if you want to introduce new configuration, you also modify your config file, you push, and then on TeamCity you can see if it works or not. Yeah. So this is how it looks from on TeamCity. So basically, here is all our configs that we have on TeamCity. Well, we have a bit more jobs, a bit more build times, but basically it looks like this. And with this, it's really nice that we can migrate to any other CI tool if needed. So if for some reason we decide that we want to go back to Jenkins, then we can go back to Jenkins. If, for example, GitHub guys introduced their CI, well, I don't think that they support migrate for now, but once they will, we'll migrate there. So yeah, it's really easy for us to switch CI servers. And from my perspective now, I don't think that it's matter which CI server you use. Well, you can rely maybe on some features. You can rely on some UX experience. So you want to download artifacts with one click, but it doesn't really matter because we can use any CI tool, and yeah, we can migrate it later. Okay, so this is how it looks from TeamCity perspective. Also, we have developer perspective. So for developer, if he wants to build project, he has to run only one script. Basically, this script does the same as was done here. Well, sort of. Inside it runs exec fastlane, blah blah blah. But we didn't want developer to do this all the time, so he can just run install sh and it works for him. Also, I already told this script checks for all environment tools which are needed and installs them if they're not installed. So this is really nice in case of new team members or onboarding process. If you have a new MacBook where you want to run our application, all you have to do is to install Xcode and then run this script, and it will tell you what it will install all tools which are needed. I find it nice because we are a mobile team, iOS team, but also we have other teams which sometimes want to run our app. And previously we had issues when we had to explain them what they have to do. We had a README file which was quite outdated over time. So it says like use this, but it didn't work already because we updated the tools. But here we, well, it worked for us. So basically, we are able to keep it up to date. Because if it won't be up to date, it will break for every problem. So this is one way to install project. Also, if you like to adjust some configuration, let's say you want to change your environment, you want to point app to Azure server to test or debug something like that, you can go and edit configuration, but that's not cool. So you can, what you can do, you can just specify some parameters. You can say, install stage, I want to use pre-production, and this should be external build. And this way, you can debug. Developer can debug any issues which are related to this. So sometimes you have some bug or something isn't working only for external builds because some debug features fix it. And you can do this. So after you run this command, you can open your Xcode project and run up in Xcode, and it will be configured using this configuration, so you can debug it locally. Yeah, sometimes you want to be able to debug stuff which is running on cd, because, well, I think it doesn't happen often, but sometimes it may happen that your build locally is working, but on cd it fails, and you have no idea why. So it's some strange bug with I don't know what. Then, if you like, you can specify I want to set up my project for this configuration, which is used on TeamCity, and this way you can easily debug stuff. Also, if you are creating new configuration, you can test it locally, and also you can do this, which is basically so as I told, install SH is a wrapper around this command. So you can say I want to run CI job for this config and using Xcode tag because it is not working there. Yeah, this is what we have. Yeah, so benefits of such a solution is that, well, as I told you, it's simple. Well, I think that this setup is quite simple. So when you know it, you know where to find everything. Yeah, I mentioned in the beginning that previously bash scripts were relying on some environment variables. So basically, what we did, we replaced these environment variables with configuration. So now you know where to find everything you need. So if you need to find if you need to adjust any parameter, you know where is a single file where you can find everything. As I have shown you, you can create new configurations on TeamCity or on any other CI if needed easily. We have yeah, onboarding is much faster. Also, if we have new Mac Mini for as a build agent, we can also set up it easily. We install Xcode, run install script, and also install TeamCity agent program. That's it. And yeah, we don't depend on specific size server, so we can use whatever we like. We can switch tools easily if needed. That's it for me. So, any other questions?
Where do you keep your secrets? Your select tokens or AppStore?
Yeah. So where do we keep our secrets? For select tokens, yes, we keep them in configuration, which is maybe not nice to do. From web app perspective, it's really bad to do. Here we assume that it is run locally. Well, I would say that yeah, it's not nice thing to do, but we are not sure how to fix it because on one hand we want to have everything easily configurable. So
It's very hard.
yeah. So for stuff like Slack secret or something else like this, we keep it in configuration because it's fine. If someone will try to push a lot of messages to Slack, well, okay, we will I don't know, disable hook, whatever. For other stuff, for example, if we want to upload app to the store, so we don't keep token or whatever password in configuration. We keep it on TeamCity agents. So on agents, so on build machines, we are using Apple Keychain, and we store this information there. And yeah, actually, there's additional stuff we need to do when we set up new agent. We have to add some secrets to keychain to make it work. The CI. So developer, if he runs some CI job which published to the store, won't be able to do this. So he will be able to create a build, to run tests. He will try to upload app, but it won't work because he doesn't have secrets. So yes. Yeah.
So you're working, I know that today in the team that handled the iOS version, right?
Yes.
Now that you got this experience, how gut feeling, how long do you think it will take to you and your team to also integrate all the Android pipeline in fastlane and something where we can see the, in that case you could also Dockerize actually. You could even run in the cloud Docker images to build and things like that.
Yeah. So I think a few years ago, Fastlane didn't have full support for Android, so Fastlane started as iOS project, but now I think it should be better. Well, I'm not an Android developer, but I think that now it should be better from what I heard. And well, I'm not sure that you want to use only Fastlane. Well, the nice thing is that you can use any tool underneath, as I shown you. For example, on Android they're using Gradle or something.
Yeah, imagine that you to build the app.
Yeah.
This is the Gradle command that you need to write to build all the flavors and all the kind that build type.
Yeah.
And then you can wrap
so
this.
If you would like to use Fastlane for writing stuff and then adding something to push into the store, well, I think it will take, well, it depends, a small amount of time, a few days, weeks.
Because Fastlane will give you probably some action that already know how to build to publish
so
bed.
I had a slide of code that we used to ship to the store, and actually it's like this. It's like 15 lines of code. You just have to specify your token, your path to your application, and that's it. So it should be like 1 day.
1 day. I'm recording this. Okay, so
well,
will be a small
it depends.
so
I mean, so for example, we have this bash script, and when we were migrating, we had cross dependencies, and it was working really so and this bash script for building our application is big, but it's big because it has some useful stuff. So for some reason we have to do quite a lot of stuff before building or whatever, and all it has to be migrated. So
because it looks to me that also
I mean,
a lot of work
if you
was
start a new project, it will take you like 2 hours to set up Fastlane for it. If you want to set up only deployment to the store, it also probably will take 1 day.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned these two apps were one code base. Do you have any other dependencies that you use, that you build yourself? And if so, how do you keep this project synchronized with those dependencies? How do you hook that into your CI, if at all?
Yes, so we have quite a lot of dependencies. And we're using Cocopos for that. Cocopos is a dependency manager for iOS. And basically we manage all dependencies through Cocopos. We have external dependencies, which are on GitHub, open source libraries. We have internal dependencies, and for that we have our own Artifactory server, which just serves Cocopos. And basically installation of Cocopod is one action of this Fastlane setup. So when you run install, it also downloads all dependencies.
But there's no integration between those repositories and this CI system. For example, if an update gets pushed to one of your internal dependencies, there's a merge request created, for example, to see if everything still works in these projects.
No. So the way how we work, so we have like big dependency, which is navigation engine. It does all navigation. It's written in C++, and we never look there. But and the way we work, when we would like, we go and try to update. But well, actually, we have in our configuration. So somewhere here, we have also like version of this library, and we have a parameter latest. And then in script, if we see like use version latest, it tries to go to Artifactory to download, to find latest version, download it, and try to build. So it builds natively like this. And if it works, then, well, we also run smoke tests. We try to verify that it's okay. And then it can be also verified by people. If it breaks, we know it from other questions? No? Okay.
Same repo, right?
Yeah.
Same repo for the labs.
Sorry?
You use the same repo for the labs?
Yes. Because yes, it's same because difference between them is not that big in terms of code.
So, looking ahead, what would be your ideal next steps? Is this perfect, good enough?
Well,
you want to change it, or is there more you want?
we still have all these bash scripts there because they work. And when people have to edit something or add, they have to do this. But well, they work with Python, but it would be nice probably to, well, I think that because fastlane provides quite high level action, it would be possible to replace like 100 lines of bash code with like 20 in Google or something. It's much more readable, and also, I know, iOS developers, they don't know bash that good. They don't like bash, and they go to Stack Overflow and like, how can I parse this with errors, and they put everything there, and for Ruby it's much better for us to understand it.